One more spaghetti.
Cutie.
Waiting for the sound.
Oh,
Have sound. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 meeting of Concord City Council, and it sounds like somebody turned my microphone up. Would you all, first of all, before that, I would just like to say that devices are available to help those who have difficulty hearing. And with the sound system, I don't know that anybody would. These devices use a transmitter and headphones and allow for an individual to personally adjust the volume to their needs. A device can be obtained at the Concord TV booth, which is the black cabinet back there in the back of the chambers with the hand waving from it. Would you please all join me in standing and for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councillor Brown.
Here.
Mayor Champlin.
Present.
Councillor Fennessy.
Present.
Councillor Foote. Councillor Grady Sexton. Here. Councillor Horn.
Here.
Councillor Keach.
Here.
Councillor Kretovic.
Here.
Councillor Kurtz.
Here.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Excused.
Councillor McNamara.
Here.
Councillor Schlosser.
Here.
Councillor Schultz.
Here.
Councillor Saku.
Here.
And Councillor Todd.
Here. Well, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of our October 15, 2024 City Council meeting?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, changes? All those in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it. I would just note that this evening, hearing items 31B and 31C, which are public hearing action items number 33 and 34. Those are related to families in transition and their properties here in the city. Those will be deferred to the December meeting due to the fact that they were not thank you. They were not adequately advertised. Thank you, Mr. City Councilor. And so,
City manager.
City manager,
Throwing insults around.
I'm sorry. It's going to be one of those nights, I can tell. All right. So, but yes. So those will be. If anybody here is in the room for those hearings, they will be held in December. Very good. I will now. I'm sorry. We have a presentation from, do we not, from Mr. Fabian, right? All right.
I'm assistant. We'll find out.
You're not the first to have challenges.
That was the right chord.
Yeah. Matt, will this work?
There we go. All right.
This is Jennifer. She's with IT. No,
No.
not at all. Jennifer is our archivist outreach and reference coordinator here at the library. So tonight she has her archivist hat on. We have a new platform we're going to unveil in early December, I think. We talked about. It's called Omeka. So she's going to talk a little about what the library's doing with Omeka, kind of where we're going, and what the plans are for the platform.
Okay. So you might be wondering, what is Omeka? You and I will know what Omeka is, but the public won't. So Omeka is a platform that allows museums, libraries, archives, and other historic institutions to upload digital content from their historic collections and make it available to the public. Right now, if anybody wanted to access our historic photo collection or any of the materials in our vertical files, when I say vertical files, that's basically a lot of the historic materials that we have that are in paper form, they need to come into the Concord room to use it. So this is going to allow people from Concord and afar to use and access Concord history without having to come to the Concord room, which is really exciting because up to this point we haven't had this ability. So it'll be, the public will know it as CPL Digital Collections. And this is what the main homepage will look like for folks. And of course, this will be heavily marketed social media, newsletter, in other places as well as the website. So you have the ability to browse collections. And we've uploaded about 1,605 materials. About half of that are photographs, the rest of that are paper-based materials. So ephemera, you'll see some programs, as well as correspondence, anything that's in paper form, basically. So this is what we've recently digitized, just to give you a quick glance. So a lot of the things are Concord organizations. You can see Concord hospitals. We got the fire department. I'm going to go ahead though and sort it. You have the ability to sort by title, so it will bring you to the different collections sorted alphabetically. And I'm going to click on this just in time for Veterans Day, which we had yesterday. It then brings up all of the image related to armed services in Concord. You can see it provides a title, a brief description, and then once someone clicks on that description, you get a whole bunch of metadata, so things, information about the object, and then you have the image itself.
Oh, cool.
This is just like a thumbnail. It's a larger thumbnail though, but once you click on the image itself, then you get the larger image. The great thing about this is that individuals will be allowed to download content without any sort of barrier. We do ask, and this is stated on the homepage and within each item and collection, that if they're using it for any other reason that's not research, to contact us. So if they're going to use it in a publication or any sort of marketing to get permission from us. So I'm going to go back. And then you can also browse items, but it's a lot. You can see there's 1,514 items total, but you can see these are the most recent things that have been digitized. And I think the great thing about this is you have the ability to search. So this is going to allow individuals, whether they're doing research on Concord, genealogical research, research on different businesses, to find content. So I'm going to go ahead and just put in police. And you can see that we have 29 total images that document the Concord Police Department. And this is undated, but most likely it looks like it's from the 50s.
So that'd be at Margaritas then, right?
Yeah.
Jail.
Interesting.
So could I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is Dublin Core?
Dublin Core is the metadata standard. So libraries, like Library of Congress is a metadata standard that like libraries use, and archives tend to use Dublin Core.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the descriptive info.
See Deputy Chief Thomas in there in the background.
That's
Third from the back.
So I think I see a lot of opportunities for these to be used by just individuals that are interested in Concord history, by schools. I could see classes using this at the schools throughout Concord if they're doing research, and I think it's something we should definitely market to the schools. I think it's going to be exciting to see how the public utilizes the tool.
And this will keep growing over time. This is obviously just
Yes.
the infancy of this project, so long term, the more we get, the more information we have, the more we can upload, and this will just get larger and larger over time, from here.
Did you start with the oldest material, and then are you working forward, or how are you?
That's a good question. So this started about 2 years before I came on board at the Concord Public Library, and they started with the photographs first. I think because that's like kind of the most. I think they thought it would generate the most interest to digitize and upload the images first. And then I'm basically going alphabetical because we have the vertical files, which contain all the archival materials, which are organized topically and alphabetically. So I'm slowly making our way, or we're slowly making our way through that. Just to give you, I know I've shown you photographs, but I'm going to show, let me go into, some of my favorite materials are the materials that document different businesses from Concord. You can see this was a merchant that was on Eagle Block, and it will eventually provide the opportunity. So right now, like this is in a collection that's titled Business Advertising or Business Invoices, but the more that we locate on this specific business, or the more that we collect over time, then we can just make that a separate collection. So the beautiful thing about Omeka is that it's fluid. Everything that we upload and the metadata that we apply isn't necessarily static. We have the ability to change over time. Yeah.
Now, can people donate information to you, or collections, and have they been, do people leave collections actually just to the library?
Yeah, and that's usually how we acquire material, is through donations. People will come in and they'll be cleaning out their house, or maybe a family member passed away and they located some items, and then they'll donate them to the library. Otherwise, we do we have a small budget to acquire materials as well. Yeah.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you. This is great, and very excited about this. I think, you know, have this information readily available to the public in this format is going to be a game changer. Is it true that the city directories are not yet digitized? And if that's the case, is there a plan to do so?
The city, so Omeka isn't good for, it's good for just a couple pieces of paper. It's not good for full publications, which the city directories are. But I think that UNH, they're trying to slowly make their way through the digitization of the city directories and the Concord annual reports. And that's what when folks come in to perform research, we usually direct them to UNH's digital collections. We could most certainly digitize those. It would just take a lot of time and effort.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. But yeah. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Is there a size limitation? I know there's some maps in the Concord room. Are we able to access maps this way?
Eventually, I would love to get, so the maps, I think have you seen the maps?
Just physically in the Concord room?
They're considerably large. So we don't have a scanner large enough to digitize the maps. A lot of them are anywhere between like 3 feet to 4 feet. They're huge. But we have the ability, when I want to look into it, to take a photograph. If someone could come in and do a professional photograph of the map, and then we can upload the photograph. Okay. Yeah. The state archives, they do have the ability to digitize large format maps like that, and they said that they would be willing to do that. I think it just depends on their backlog of what they're currently working on. Yeah.
Sounds like a program change request coming up.
Yeah.
Working our way through it.
Yeah, any other question? Councilor Kurtz.
What an absolutely fabulous project. Thank you for all of your time and effort on this. I was really pleased to hear you mention publicizing it to schools, because that was exactly where my brain went as a former teacher. Are you maintaining the physical collection in the Concord room?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so
We just burned everything, we're done with it. Yeah,
Well, I like the Concord room a lot, so I just wanted to.
I'll just note for the record,
We are doing this to get
the
some
city
room.
librarian was jesting.
Yeah, physical collection will always be maintained, and we also maintain the original digitized format. We would never, granted Omeka, we upload it to, and that's what's providing the public access, but we also maintain that digital facet as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you. Jen, participated with the Concord Historical Society a couple months ago, talking about the Concord Library as our archivist in the Concord Room. It's great. You can watch it on Concord TV. It's on their YouTube channel. She does a fantastic job. One of the things that we had talked about is there's a lot of requests sometimes for people to do genealogy. Is this going to be searchable so that people can look and see if there's a photo of like Uncle John from 3 centuries ago?
Yeah.
That he can search and find out information about relatives.
So it depends. We have a lot of photographs of individuals that aren't labeled. I don't know, people just didn't label their photographs.
Yeah.
We have the same.
So if it's labeled with that individual's name, that is in the descriptive metadata and can be located via search. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then
you know I'm a champion for you. So.
I know. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, someone who's done a lot of archival research, including online and digital, with digital sources, I think this is really exciting, even if it's just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Because this really makes it, as people have said, as counselors have said, this makes it so much more broadly available to the general public. And we're living in an age when people do like to dig down into their family history, their community history. And this is just one more great resource that the Concord Public Library is making available. So thank you for this work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to, as Jen said, you have been sending some emails, right, Jennifer?
Yes.
Yes, so thank you for the space you created for the French Club today. There was 8 of us or 9 of us because I was there for, so we do appreciate that as well. This goes a long way for people like me. When you are back in Africa, the kids want to show where they lived or what can find. So I think digital can go a long way for many reasons. So thank you for the time you invested in this.
Yeah, I think that was the point we wanted. It was all about accessibility and making sure that anyone from anywhere be able to access the information without any sort of barrier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Merci.
I think we have a presentation from Nicole Petrin, our police social worker.
Nice. Excited about this. Have you met her? No, but I'm excited.
Welcome. Chief, welcome.
Welcome.
Please introduce yourselves.
Thank you for, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thank you for allowing us to do a quick presentation tonight. I'll introduce Nicole and Sarah. Sarah's our intern. Nicole is our Master's of Social Work social worker. This program is coming up on just about a year since we initiated it. For those that don't or didn't see when we came to council in the past, that there really are not a lot of comparable programs like this in New Hampshire. And so we didn't really know what to expect. We're going to start from the ground up. And I got to tell you that Nicole has done a fantastic job. And and she's going to go through the work that she does to the point that, it gets us thinking that we want to grow this program, and we might see opportunities for that in the next budget. So I'll turn it over to Nicole.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, everyone. So I have had the opportunity to meet many of you in this room, but I thought it would be important just to give a brief overview of what the day-to-day looks like with police social work, just to have a better understanding. So essentially, police social work here in Concord is to address those unmet social needs that are taking place in the community. And those unmet social needs are following a police response. So officers are still responding to calls for service, meeting with community members, and finding out that there are unaddressed situations going on in the home environment or the personal environment, and there needs to be some sort of follow-up. Sometimes when officers go out to calls for service, it doesn't always necessitate some sort of legal action or arrest, but there's something else going on in the home that might mean that there's further police contact if something isn't addressed. If somebody isn't provided the right level of support, there's going to be reoccurring police visits, things of that nature. So that's exactly what this position does, is supporting those needs. So the police social work role is a non-co-response model, which means officers are still responding in real time, doing their job just as they have, and they have me on the back end for support. So officers go out, respond to calls for service, and then those referrals are sent my way. So emails, text messages, officers stopping me in the hallway. Each day when I start my workday, I also filter through the call logs from the day before just to see if there's anything going on that maybe was missed that could use some attention. Likewise, if there's anything on the call logs of somebody I'm already connected with, and just putting that awareness to me that there's something going on to do some follow-up. So in this capacity, I'm working with all populations. There's not one population or age group that I'm not supporting or working with. I'm open to anything. Likewise, any social need. So any social need could be substance use, domestic violence, mental health. Any and all social needs that are happening within the community are things that I can support. So there is really no referral that will be turned away, so long as there was a police contact to initiate something, that can then come my way for support or follow-up. So each individual case certainly varies on the amount of time that is required, just like officers. Some officers can go to a call for service, and they could be done within 15, 20 minutes, and their job is done. And there's other calls for service that have a lot more follow-up, a lot more detail, a lot more people to be interviewed. And those calls for service can take several days, several weeks. It really depends. And the same thing is true for social work. I could be reaching out to somebody to introduce myself and provide condolences because perhaps there was a death in their family in the past week and police were present because of that death. I could be calling that family to offer condolences and have a supportive comfort call with them. And I may learn that they have a lot of natural supports around them. They appreciate the call but don't really need anything further. Whereas I could call the next family offering that same level of support and find out that they are completely shocked with this loss and have no idea of what to do next or where to turn. And we can start having those conversations about what to do, who to engage with. Same thing is something to keep in mind is that police work is something that officers have to follow laws and rules. With social work, it's voluntary. So I could be calling somebody to reach out to introduce myself, and they may not be at all interested in any social work services or supports, and that's okay. I'm going to go on to the next person and make that same outreach call. So really, everything is time dependent. Individuals who are maybe homebound and in need of services, that's going to require a lot more of my time. It's going to be going out to meet the person in the home, to complete intake packets and referral packets, to then send those packets to the right agencies or entities, to close the loop on those referrals, to make sure the person gets through the door for intake number 1, or getting their phone screening done with those right agencies. So the time dependent is different across the board. I would say, and looking at the data before coming here tonight, there's 3, I would say, needs that I'm addressing the most in my role, and that's mental health, and that could be individuals that are already connected with services, but perhaps their level of services are not adequate for what they require, and therefore it's necessitating police contact. The aging population. We have a growing aging and elderly population in our community, and their needs are significant. We have individuals who have memory care issues and are wandering away from home. Officers go out to the home, safely return them, or get them to the hospital, whatever is needed. But now I can jump in, reach out to the family members to find out who's involved, bring them into the conversation, and what's the plan for your parents, or what's the plan for your family member. And if there is no other next of kin or family members involved, then I'm going to work to find out what social networks and supports we can put in place. And that could be helping put the right services in place to let somebody age at home safely in place, or it could be that they need a higher level of care, such as a nursing care facility, memory care unit, and we're going to navigate that together. And then the third population I see a lot of, and I'm supporting a lot of, is homelessness and unhoused. And that could be our chronic homelessness for folks who have been living unsheltered for years. It could be individuals who are newly homeless and just, were evicted within the same week that I'm reaching out to them. It all varies. Within my role, like I talked about how my typical day is reading the call logs, getting emails from officers and referrals, I'm also participating in homeless outreach in the community as well. So that is a hat that I also wear in this position. There are a few agencies in our community who have homeless outreach programs. So we go out in teams or partners, and we try to cover as much as Concord as we can. We know where there are reoccurring sites that folks are staying at, and we know other places through word of mouth or people are relocating to. So we go out to have conversations with folks to see if that's the day that they might be interested in services. A service could be a call to Riverbend to maybe reschedule an appointment that they missed. Or perhaps they're looking at a different level of treatment or services. They want some referrals when we can do it right there where they're at. And some folks on homelessness, maybe they've been disconnected disconnected from family, and there's family maybe in the local area they just need help re-engaging with and having those hard conversations to look for help and ask for it, and we can have those right there at their site where they're at. So mental health, aging population, and homelessness, again, are the three, I would say, time-sensitive ones that are really the most cases I'm seeing in this position. So again, going back to the data before coming here tonight, so I started the first week of February, and from first week of February till now, I have seen 167 individual cases. And those individual cases could be couples and spouses, or folks living independently, any of the above. And I say couples or spouses 167 because in Concord, we have had an ACERT team since 2019. So for those not familiar with ACERT, that is the Adverse Childhood Experiences Response Team. So that specifically supports families when there has been police involvement. So perhaps kids were present in the home when police had to respond because of a call for violence in the home. So that ACERT program has an ACERT coordinator, a community partner, and a police officer who go out to the homes and meet with families following that police response to offer services. So our ACERT program here in Concord, it's been a vacant position, unfortunately, since August. So while that position is vacant, I have been filling in for it to make sure those needs are not going unmet and those families are getting the same level of service that they need or require. So I've had 167 cases of individuals and families, and then since taking over the oversight of ACERT in August, I've had 35 families with ACERT. So collectively over 200 cases since coming on in the last 9 months. So it's very busy, to say the least. I have been very appreciative of all the support within the police department, from everybody within administration, all the way down to our patrol officers and other administrative staff within the building. It's been very well received by community members as well. When I'm calling to outreach, introduce myself, offer supports, it's been just fantastic all around. So we're very excited. Sarah last week as our intern, our first police social work intern, which is fantastic. So she is with the police department 24 hours a week from November all the way till July. So that is a lot of time we're going to be able to work together and do lots. And we have our second police social work position, which we're actively hiring for and filling that position. So that's a little update on police social work right now.
Great, thank you. Questions? Councilor Grady Sexton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. You have come before the Public Safety Advisory Board to present, and one of the things that I found really compelling that you shared with us was some of the work that you're doing that is reducing the amount of calls that we're seeing into the department and freeing up law enforcement to do more of the work that they are hired to do. Could you speak a little bit to that here?
Yeah, so some of those calls for service, I think some of the ones that come to mind the most are folks with memory care, Alzheimer's, dementia. They live independently. They're calling 911 or dispatch or the police department because they're home and they're confused. They're home and they don't know what to do and they don't know who else to call. So 911, the police, that's what they're ingrained to call. So calls like that usually would be the same person maybe calling multiple times in the same week or the same month. That's an unmet social need. That person is living independently and has some unmet social needs. So those calls can now come my way, or I'm jumping ahead of them and getting in contact with that person by the second call to dispatch versus call number 12. So really trying to help those. Likewise, there's somebody I've been supporting in the community, and they have a traumatic brain injury. So their processing, their ability to articulate things looks very differently than what some of us in this room might be able to articulate. And when those calls come in saying, I need help, they don't need police response, they don't need fire help. What they need are social needs. They need help connecting with their case manager. They need help because they lost a phone number to an agency that they were working with and need help connecting to it. So it's freeing up our police officers for those emergency calls and allowing things to come my way.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. I think your presentation is wonderful, and I really appreciate that you came to share the three most pressing needs, because I think that is especially helpful to us to understand just as we create policy to, I would love to have a regular report from you to the council just so that we understand, what the neediest in our community, how we can alleviate some of those issues, whether it's transportation or it's housing or services. I think it would be really helpful for us going forward, and I really appreciate you already having that available to us tonight. This is excellent. Thank you.
Council Kretovic.
Thank you. I so appreciate the work that you're doing. Recently, the New Hampshire Municipal Association had their annual conference, and there was a session specifically on police social workers working in the homeless community, and they really shared some of the challenges that they're up against. So I have a general sense of what you're facing every single day when you go out into our homeless communities and the assistance that you're providing. I think what I learned from that is that you're in an island of yourselves because there's so few of you in the state that are actually helping through the police department, reducing the number of calls and supporting beyond just the homeless community, but the other elements in the community that you talked about as well. So I just want to add my deep appreciation because I have now a greater sense of what's happening across our state and other communities as well. And I know it's a place I'm unlikely to ever find myself because of the work that I do, but I appreciate what you're doing for the city of Concord, elevating the conversation that we're having here in our community and evolving our police department and our commitment to protect and serve. Thank you.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I'm going to add to the chorus here. I think that in addition to the point that Councilor Grady Sexton mentioned about the importance of saving police time, I think what's really exceptional about this program and having it here is that as the capital city, we are providing a greater level of care to our residents. And I think you can't really put a price tag on that. I'm glad to see that there's going to be an effort to continue to expand the program. I just would like to ask you, what is your sense, having started this work, in terms of the overall need? Is there certainly still more need out there than one or two people could potentially supply?
In terms of social workers supplying
right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yes, absolutely. I would say, like, the over 200 cases in 9 months, that's a lot. That is a lot for one person to manage to recall the names and, you know, being able to provide those resources, referrals, going out to the community, meeting with folks. I foresee a dire need to grow the program in terms of meeting the needs to the best of our ability. I would love to see if this program could continue to develop and being able to support social workers with specialties. Prior to coming into this position, I had a background of children and families. That has been my full experience with social work. So coming in and now working with the aging population, it was some hard, fast learning I had to provide to myself and going out to the community to learn what was out there and talking with other community partners. So the ability to have additional police social workers, one who could potentially manage mental health and substance use, somebody working with the aging and elderly population, somebody with kids and family, and really being able to allow each person to have their individual training and background and skills put to use, because how quickly different cases all evolve, and you know, you might be supporting somebody on a case who is the defendant but also the plaintiff, and it's really hard to go back and forth with that dialogue with different people and supporting them without breaking confidentiality and working through it. So the ability to grow this program would be phenomenal and certainly needed.
Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your presentation that I saw previously at the Public Safety Board. My question is actually going to be for the Chief. We're now 9 months into the program. Have there been any surprises, any challenges you didn't expect, any benefits that you didn't expect?
Surprises, no. I think it's exceeding my expectations. It's exceeding the command staff's expectations at this point. And the amount of work that Nicole has accomplished in 9 months is just extraordinary. And it makes us really question how much more we can actually accomplish in this community if we expand the program.
Thank you.
Councilor Sexton.
Thank you, Your Honor, and good to see you, because I had the honor to meet with you and discuss, because I was very excited to hear that this was an option. As you mentioned, not everybody want to take their phone and call the police. What police mean to some people, it's not what it means to other people, and I think for the community to have that option, it's great. So thank you for all you do. I did still remember what you told me about a senior citizen that was literally just leaving their home until you guys found them a place to live, a nursing home place. Is there a direct line for you? So if somebody just one, and I know capacity is an issue, so I'm not trying to add more work on the great work you have been doing, but is there a direct line for you? If somebody knows that I don't have to talk to a police, I just want to talk to a social worker to go through you, or there's no direct line, they have to call 911?
So there has to be some sort of police contact initially in order for a referral to come my way to be worked through. Now that we've had more conversation in the community, the program exists, the position exists, there are phone calls I do get from community members who have had no police contact, that they have just heard that there's a police social worker and I heard you could help me with maybe X, Y, or Z because a neighbor told them about it, a friend had engaged with me in some capacity. So if I receive calls like that, I, in good conscience, can't just hang up the phone and say I can't work with you. I will provide them what I can over the phone. Is that unfortunately you're not somebody I could necessarily be supporting long term because you haven't had a police contact. But from what you're sharing with me, here are just a few resources I'll give you over the phone, or I'll send you in an email, and I hope that these agencies might be able to better guide you. So I will still give them some sort of tools that they can work with.
Councilor Schultz. Oh, sorry.
Just follow up, and this is maybe the chief question, because I think this is a great conversation, especially that we are investing in another soon maybe to be a social worker. Have you, and I know this is a new program, we are all learning while we go, but have you seen or experienced anything that you think in a long run this will be something that community members, now that she's being known, people are really enjoying this? That's based on also your feedback about what's happening in our communities. For sure, there should be guidelines on what can go through her and what shouldn't, because there is other people that they need police, but there is certain things that doesn't need police. Do you see ways to, once that second person is there, to get a phone call just directly so that will be advertised for the community at large to know that there is something for them?
Well, it's a good question. I think that the way our model exists today is that it's that coming from primarily the patrol division referring cases to her. That's the way the model is set up. I think the community model is that if you need social services, people are usually going direct to that social service agency or calling non-police departments for information as to who best to call. So we can certainly refocus our policies that make sense, but as we sit right now, where our hands are full with just police contact cases.
Thank you.
Councilor Schultz.
That's a perfect segue to my question, which is, and by the way, bravo, this is fantastic. I think we can unanimously say that. Do you have any overlap, or can you see some potential benefit in any collaboration with the welfare office? And then my second question is sort of the flip side of who you're connecting with the most. Do you have a sense of what the biggest holes in our social safety net might be? So those are two very different questions.
Sure. So I would say yes to your first question. Concord Human Services, Karen, Ms. Williams and her team over there, I am in contact with them multiple times a week. Our overlap is very mutual in a lot of different cases. And also, until Sarah started last week with her internship hours, I was the sole social worker. So just having another like-minded human who supports these social needs and capacity, being able to call and discuss and brainstorm through. We've done a lot of that together, but there's also just been mutual overlap. What's interesting with Concord Human Services or City Welfare, they are an office-based program where I am community-based. So if we have mutual overlap together and somebody who potentially they're supporting through a hotel voucher, but they have needs of hygiene items or things like that, those are things I can pick up from City Welfare and make a drive over and make a quick delivery. So we do a lot of overlap together. We are in contact on a regular basis, absolutely. And then to your second question in terms of gaps. So what was really appealing to me in this police social work role was it was the city of Concord. It's a community I have always worked in as a social worker. It's always been the community I've represented as a social worker. And what makes this program successful is the capacity of our community. We have so many amazing resources and programs that exist within our community. And as robust as they are and diverse, there are also limitations because of the funding streams they have, the capacity of their services. So really, I look at myself as the director So when referrals come my way, where can I direct this person? Because I cannot provide clinical mental health services. I'm really catching the information, trying to figure out a solution, and sending people back into those community resources. So we have many of them, but the barriers, I would say, are those agencies who want to be doing more, but their funding doesn't support it, or they only have 2 case managers and they have a workload of 100 individuals. So my ability to refer is also based on the capacity of our system. So we have some really fantastic systems in our community, but I think we can all acknowledge a visible thing we all have a need for is more housing, more supportive housing. It's something, homelessness is our most visible social need in our community right now. And while we have great programs that work and support those individuals, there's just not enough resources to go around to support them all.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just really quickly, I've been so impressed in just the short time that this program has been in existence. I think not only is it the right thing to do, but I think it is saving taxpayers dollars and also really freeing up our law enforcement to do the work that we need them to do. But I wanted to thank the city manager and the chief and the deputy chiefs for bringing this program here and for really spearheading it and for understanding the importance of prevention and early interventions. I think this program is wonderful. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, the key is getting the right person.
That's right.
It is, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
She went to Plymouth State University.
Good alma mater. Thank you for that excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I'll just echo what Councilor Grady Sexton said. Excuse me. Kudos to you, Chief, for bringing this forward. I know we're not the first community in the state to adopt this model, but I'm glad that we were, second? I think you made a great hire. And Sarah, I hope you have a successful, internship with us. And thank you for extending our reach. This is, as Councilor Grady Sexton said, a real, provides a multiplier effect for us and takes a lot of pressure off of our beat officers, I'm sure. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now moves us to our consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this consent calendar.
Approval.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Councilor Brown?
I am recusing myself from item number 19 and number 22.
Thank you. Councilor Brown recuses herself from items 19 and 22. Right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Consent calendar is adopted. That brings us to public hearings. Madam City Clerk, item 31A.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $400,000 for winter operations retention payments and authorizing the use of general fund balance in the sum of $400,000 for this purpose.
Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, the General Services recruits employees and pays for their training to secure a CDL license, a commercial driver's license. And it takes approximately, and I'm going to start right in the middle because I know you all know the background. This is really the same program we ran last year. It takes approximately 3 to 4 months for new employees to secure that license at a cost of about $5,500, which the city pays for. So you can see these are highly trained employees. It takes another 2 to 3 months to train these employees for winter operations, and the average retention for a labor truck driver position with a CDL is less than 5 years. So it's really important for us to find the people, train them, and be able to retain those services, particularly with the competition that's going on. As you will recall, the Department of Transportation also provides a winter stipend of $5,000 for their operators, and this will be the 4th consecutive year that they've done that. So the recommendation here from General Services is that, and myself, is that a winter weekly $300 stipend to city staff available related to winter operations for city streets, sidewalks, and airport. And generally these, and I should also add to that, just so it's clear, and similar to last year, the stipend would also be made available to Parks and Recreation Department, full-time employees who do winter maintenance, plowing maintenance, and parking. So, as you know, we have to keep the community centers open. We want to keep the the golf course open during the winter for operations, White Park, the Memorial Lodge, and also winter burials. We have to be able to keep those facilities all open so those activities can occur. General Service recommends the winter stipend of also $150, as we did last year, for supporting performance of winter operations for wingers. The stipend would go from December 1st of this year to March 29th. And to see why that date, to give you an example, and it was in the report, the first occurral of snow being required to be removed is in the report for the last 5 years. So it ranges from November 22nd to December 25th. That's how the range of when snow can first occur. But during last year, for example, we had 19 total winter events, 30 the year before, 26 the year before, 27 the year before, and 33 the year before. So there's many events that occur here, and I recommend that you approve this so we can hopefully maintain our folks with the license and be ready to handle this winter. The General Service has done a great job the last so many years that I've been here, and we'd like to be able to continue to provide that service to the community.
Thank you. Questions for the city manager? Councilor Kurtz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have any, I support this, I wonder if we have any information about if it's been effective in retaining
Yes.
our CDL drivers
Certainly.
from year to year?
So right now, I'll just give you the updates on the numbers that I have. Our reports, the report speaks to 11 vacancies. We have 4 permanent and 7 temporary operators. We've made offers to 2 permanent drivers with start dates of November 18th and November 25th. Also, the report states that we have 45 operators. We need 67 to do the whole project. However, this winter, we have 11 new CDL holders, but however, they have no plowing experience. So we've been able to train a lot of folks, get them ready, but we got to get them into the system, which is why it's important to maintain them. Last year, we lost 1 when we had the program. And so far, but however, since April 1st of this year, we've lost 4 because people retiring, going to other positions, whatnot. So we have to rehire more. Still have to hire more folks. But they're making, so we've stemmed the tide, but we're making progress.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, I have 2 questions. The first is, will the 400,000, will that cover the staff that we have now, or is that 67 positions?
That will cover in the 67 positions are budgeted for in your budget that you approved. The $400,000 will cover the stipends for all positions throughout the city.
Okay, so it would include that amount.
Right. And this comes from undesignated fund balance, so there's no impact.
Right.
You do not have to raise taxes to do any of this.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Follow up. So I am wondering, the CDL license staff, so this is kind of to keep them going, to fully train up those that don't have the winter plowing experience. What else do they do throughout the year? These are staffed positions that we have year-round. What do they do in the summer months?
Mr. Chesley, come forward.
Welcome, Mr. Chesley.
Thank you very much. During the non-winter months, they are working on maintaining our local highways, brush cutting, maintaining our drainage systems, our open and closed drainage systems. So there's plenty of work. We've never run out of it.
Because winters are shorter, we just have them do that work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Chesley, it's fair to say that, these are basically heavy equipment, dump truck drivers.
Correct.
Large scale, and so we use those all year round.
Correct.
Including right now to collect leaves.
Leaves, right.
So.
Good. Thank you.
Councilor Credivic.
Thank you. Mr. Chesley, only because you're here. Last year, when we instituted this stipend, we had a number of drivers from the year before that had actually left us. And when we put this stipend in, they actually returned and were able to help us with winter operations. That's a rumor that I heard, but is that a true statement? That we were, and we have retained them for this year?
I wouldn't say that's completely accurate. Okay. I mean, we did have I called it an exodus last fall, and it caused us to dropped down to 2 leaf collection crews. And what may have returned, we may have had some people come back as a seasonal person. I'd have to check on the accuracy.
My
on that.
apologies. That was what I meant. They'd accepted work elsewhere, but came back to us seasonal.
Could have been. That could have been the case. But as far as full-time employees, they were lost.
Okay.
And for me, that was a huge loss because, as Tom said earlier, we've been only, at our current rates, been only to bring in a CDL operator from outside of the organization 4 over the past 3 years. So as we completely, we have to bring in people who we think can pass the CDL test, and as Tom has outlined it.
After you spend $5,500.
So we bring in someone who thinks we can pass the test, and for the most part, our guesses are pretty good. But we invest $5,500, and then we have to wait until there's a snowstorm and start to train on that. And my big concern is, the fact that that group of operators, or CDL operators, we lose them 4 to 5 years. And Jen's not here. I don't know what other level of people we have in our 450 workforce that has that short a fuse, that we just completely turn over. We are continually recruiting CDL drivers.
And it's throughout the country.
It's throughout the country. And, the pool is getting smaller, and you're familiar with our Propel program.
Yes.
And we had a young up-and-coming gentleman in our Propel program. He was a CDL driver. He left the profession and went to do some other type of work. And, he was a rising star.
Mm-hmm.
Can't hold him back, but that's what we're up against, just trying to retain people. And I think the success of the program, as Tom had mentioned, as soon as we put the program in place last winter, that bleed that we were experiencing of people just leaving the department stopped, and we lost only 1 supervisory employee for the entire period. So I think it was a very smart investment.
Great. Thank you so much.
Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Ron. So, Mr. Chesley, it brings me to sort of a similar question. There's no mechanism in place that prevents someone from getting trained on our dollar and then working for some number of months and then going to the private sector? Is that an issue at all?
Ms. Johnston has her hand up in the back, Mr. Chesley.
All right.
Maybe we should invite her down?
Invite her in, because we have to work towards that, but I'll let her speak to that.
And I know, just as a follow-up, I know there are some programs that the structure is such that after a year of service, you
Hey,
get
how
some
are
kind
you?
of bonus
Hi.
or something along those lines.
Hiding back there.
I was hiding. We do have a training reimbursement agreement program for the CDL people that we train. When they are put through the school by us, they sign an agreement that we put into place this past spring. And that creates 18 months that they're held here, or they have a repayment that they have to do. And it's prorated based on time. So every 6 months it reduces by an amount. So we do have them for 18 months to prevent them leaving, to kind of hedge against that investment that we've made on their training. And that's something that we've had one person who's balked at signing. But other than that, everybody's been appreciative to have the schooling in order to get the training.
Has that ever been enforced with any higher?
We haven't had anybody leave since we had them start training.
Okay.
We have enforced it outside of the CDL program. We had a tuition reimbursement program for schooling, and they did leave, and we did have in your department, and we had to collect that. So it has been enforced in a different division.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Chesley and Ms. Johnston? Very well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, got one right over
Yes,
here.
oh, Councilor, yes, Councilor
Thank you.
Fennessy.
I had a question for the city manager because I was reading the Concord Monitor this morning, and I think you sort of addressed it in your comments earlier, but the Concord Monitor said that we had only had 1 plowable snowfall in 2023, and in the last 5 years, we'd only had plowable snowfall accumulations on just 5 occasions. I'm assuming that was a misreading of the report that you provided to us that highlighted, I think it was the first day of plowable snow that we had each year.
which is why I wanted to clarify this. I think if you look at the report and you're not familiar with how the snow removal system works, you could come to that conclusion. So I've already talked to General Services about when we do this again in the future, just lay it out a little more simpler for that. Not that it's, but that's why, of course, you look at this and you say, okay, there's more than 5 plow events over the last 5 years, but I could see how someone could come to that conclusion based on that. So, yeah.
And so I know you went through the numbers, but what were the numbers for each of the years again?
So this past year was 19 events, 30 the year before that. This is all actually, if you look at your budget, we've outlined all this in your budget. This is, City Council may recall, you wanted a separate section in the budget notations in terms of snow and ice removal. So there's a piece in there on that, and we actually relate all these events. So if you go to there, you'll see that for each and every year if you go back to the previous budget. But last year, 19, 22, 23 was 30 events. Year before that, 26 events, 27 events, 33 events. So it's about 30. We usually budget for removing snow from downtown. We used to budget for 10, and then I told Chip we don't have enough money anymore. So he budgets for 7 now. And we used to get 8 or 9, but we somehow make it work. But now we're down to 1 or 2 or 3 because it hasn't snowed the last 2 or 3 years. But we still budget for that. If those dollars are not used, it goes back to surplus. So you'll be seeing a nice healthy surplus coming up in the future on that.
Thank you.
Super. Any other questions for the city manager? All right, I'll now open the public hearing on item 31A. Does anyone in the audience like to testify? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on item 31A. As I mentioned, items 31B and C will have been deferred till December. Madam City Clerk, item 31D.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $23,000 as a transfer out to the sidewalk reserve and accepting the sum of $23,000 from Sheep Davis Limited Partnership for this purpose.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council, so the city planning board, your planning board has site plan regulations, and under section 21.02, the section which says when an isolated section of sidewalks is proposed or required, the planning board may require the applicant to set aside equivalent funds to be placed in the city escrow account to allow for the future construction of a sidewalk instead of constructing a sidewalk in an isolated location. In this case, a payment in the amount of $23,000 has been received from the Sheep Davis Limited Partnership for public sidewalk along Sheep Davis Road associated with the multifamily development located at 303 Sheep Davis Road. Staff requests the City Council to accept the funds and appropriate to the Sidewalk Reserve Fund. So you're not spending them, you're just putting them in a reserve for something that you want to use in the future.
Any questions for the city manager? Councilor Brown.
Yes, so on TPAC, we've been looking at sidewalks and ranking them, and it's a significant amount of money for sidewalks, and that's even when there is paving happening, and we're now looking at ranking sidewalks that stand alone for in sections of road that have already recently been paved. 23,000 just seems like a small number. Can you explain how we get to that amount?
That's the number the planning board came up with.
Oh.
I can't.
Okay.
That's, all I can say is take the money. But,
Right.
well, I wish it was 123,000, but yeah.
Follow up? Can we, I guess it would be a question to the planning board. I would like to see if we can increase that amount so that it's actually, because I don't think we could really build anything for 23,000.
We can simply say to the city council, you as the city council can say to the planning board, take a look at the formula of how that number is derived, and the next one that comes along, would you please consider that?
Yes.
So.
Does that need to be a motion? Or?
Maybe just in the minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, very good.
I think
Yes,
that's okay.
thank you.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, I will now open the public hearing on item 31D. Would anyone like to testify? Seeing none, close the hearing on item 31D. We open the public hearing on item 31E. Madam City Clerk.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $10,582 to assist the library's mission in providing a variety of equitable services to patrons of the Concord Public Library and accepting the sum of $10,582 and grant funds from the Alice J. Reen Charitable Trust.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, the grant will be used to cover items, multimedia display, study, corral, sign holders, partitions, sensory tables, light laboratory, book shelving, display shelvings, and more, with an explanation.
Thank you. Any questions for the City Manager? And more.
I didn't think
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. So we have the main library in 2 branches. Is this going to be distributed to other branches? How is this, are these materials going to be disseminated?
Library Director Kapoor.
Welcome back, Mr. Fabian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking through the list here of items that the city manager was just reading. So the sensory tables are likely to start at the main library because the size of them, they're kind of like 4 feet by 3 feet. So they're kind of unwieldy for us to move out and then find a home for because they won't really fit in the storage, room per se. Some of the other ones like the displays, some of the smaller mobile shelving, those kind of things, sign holders, they'll move around certainly wherever we can utilize them throughout. But kind of big ticket ones, we'll have to figure out a way how to kind of get them introduced, so that some of the other smaller ones. But our ideally at first they're going to be on the main library. That's where we have the most space. We'll kind of see how they do, and then we'll figure out how to move them around.
If I could?
Yes.
Remember, we have dollars to upfit the Pennacook, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, the Pennacook Library with all new materials right now. Nice. So we have all dollars set aside for that.
Excellent.
Follow up?
What is a light laboratory?
So the sensory tables, the idea is that they introduce kids to utilize all 5 senses. So light laboratory 1, the focal point is just simply light, colors, all kinds of blinking apparatuses in there. Another one is like shapes, another one is water-based. So they kind of each have an element that they kind of focus on to get kids to use all their senses kind of a new fashion, kind of a new way. As we know, kids finding out more and more, they learn a little bit differently. So we're trying some of these sensory items out there to see what they respond to, kind of what gets utilized more. And we think they'll do really well. We think after this, we'll probably rotate some other ones in. I have a feeling this is going to be kind of a long-term investment that we're really just beginning here.
One more follow-up. Yes, we just had an incredible presentation by the police social worker. Do you interact with her to help identify what materials would best serve some of the kids who she's encountered with the ACERT program or families that may benefit from these types of materials?
We haven't had to sit down to ask for collection ideas. We certainly can do that. We've certainly, met Nicole. We've seen her at the library. We've had her come out certainly with the police on multiple occasions, which is great. But yeah, there's always an opportunity there. If she has an expertise, that would be something that we'd love to hear about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Fabian or the city manager? Thank you, Mr. Fabian. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll now open the public hearing to the public on item 31E. Would anyone like to testify? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on 31E. We'll move to public hearing action. Madam.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $400,000 for winter operations retention payments and authorizing the use of general fund balance in the amount of $400,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes with the required 2/3 vote. Madam City Clerk, item 35.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $23,000 as a transfer out to the sidewalk reserve and accepting the sum of $23,000 from Sheep Davis Limited Partnership.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Brown.
Your Honor, I'd just like the minutes to reflect what the city manager had stated, that I would like the planning board to look at their calculations so that the funds that we receive in lieu of a sidewalk can actually be used to build a sidewalk in the future.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? Councilor Horn.
Just a quick question. When we are accepting these funds, this isn't being held to someday build that particular sidewalk. It's just going to a general sidewalk
I don't
reserve.
think it says specifically for that sidewalk, it's for what the council wants to use it for.
Okay.
And there may come the day when it makes sense to connect that to something else, but it's up to you.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, I want to follow up from Counselor Horn's question. So where will this 23,000 go? Where will we see that in the budget?
When you see capital projects come forward, you'll see an indication when you look at the capital budget where the funding sources would be. So you'd get a recommendation of where those, how to fund each individual project as it goes along. So for example, let's say you had a highway project for a certain street that came along that needed a sidewalk. You could get a recommendation that says and it's $100,000 sidewalk.
Yeah,
100,000,
sidewalk
75,000 will be
Okay,
this and
got it.
something will be.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion passes with the required 2/3 majority. Madam City Clerk, item 36.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $10,582 to assist the library's mission in providing a variety of equitable services to the patrons at the library and accepting the sum of $10,582 in grant funds for this purpose.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Council Brown.
Yes, I would just like to recommend that the director meet with Nicole Petrin to talk about, I know these funds have been identified, but future funds that may support disadvantaged community members, children, families that could benefit from services at the library. I know the library sees a lot of homeless or unhoused folks come in and use their services, so that would be a nice way for the director to connect with our police social worker to connect those folks with resources.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, the motion passes by the required 2/3 majority. City Manager, I believe we have a report.
We do. Mr. Gill will come forward and support. David, do you need a couple minutes to set up, or? Yes.
All right, we'll be recessed for 5 minutes.
currently, but we're right with us.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is David Gill, Parks and Recreation Director. Joining me today is Eric from VHB. He's a consultant who has helped us with the Memorial Field Master Plan. I know some of you have attended the public meetings over the past year or so, so some of this might be a little bit of a rehack of, so to speak, of what we've talked about in the past. This presentation is already on the website, so if anybody's watching from home, it is there. They can follow from home. Last June, city and the school district leadership became together and we jointly funded a master plan for Memorial Field Complex. The first meeting we had was September 19th of last year. We had a follow-up meeting on February 22nd of this year. We also had individual focus groups with the students at Ryland Middle School as well as Concord High School to try to get their inputs on the student athletes, what they would like to see, what their issues are, what their opportunities are. Quick history of the Memorial Field. Again, this is all online. 1926, the land was donated. Original facilities included clay tennis courts, football field, softball field. You know, 30s we added a grad stand. You know, first night football games were 1945. Fast forward to 1971. A lot of the growing sports in the community. City Council funded a master plan to look at the growing needs of the community. At that time, we did expand the property. Now sits about 33 acres. This is the 1971 master plan. A lot of the amenities are there today, just in a little different format. I think it's interesting to note, back in 1971, they did have an air dome for covered indoor space in the wintertime, so it's probably ahead of the planning. Air domes are everywhere now from an indoor sports perspective, and it did show a lot more parking than we have today. It also had, in the top right-hand corner, that was a field hockey field that was shown in the master plan. When we look a little bit farther on, that field that was shown in 1971 is 100% in the wetlands that we probably would not be able to build today, so that's probably why it wasn't built back then. Memorial Field complex today, 36 acres. There's 2 football fields, track, baseball field. I think everybody's comfortable with what the amenities are. The red line through there is cross-country ski trails. I know we haven't had a lot of snow on a regular basis the past couple of years, but the Capital Island Ski Club maintains cross-country ski trails there when we have enough snow. Basically, that's who we are today. It looks nice and green, but if you look closely, in the middle, you can see where the dead grass is, the standing water. We do have a lot of drainage problems there. I think everybody's aware of that. Just to recap the recent improvements, we have improved the tennis courts, the 10 courts there. The press box has been redone. We funded an engineering study. General Services handled that to look at the baseball, the football field bleachers. Obviously, there's a lot more improvements that needs to happen over the next decade or two. This is obvious. Drainage has failed. The 1971 drainage system, for the most part, his life expectancy has passed. It's interesting to note, too, we are getting a lot more heavy rain events, so that's also hampering. When we get an inch of rain is one thing, but when we get 5 or 6 inches of rain, there's no capacity to handle the water. So those are some recent pictures of where we stand. We've dug up some of the drainage areas to look to see how it is. A lot of it has failed. A lot of it's full with gravel and silt just from a 50-plus years of being in the ground. This is the general area of the 1970s expansion. It's also the general area of the main water issues that we have on the site. That area in red is about a foot and a half lower than the main football field. So obviously water is going to drain to the lowest point, plus the drainage system has failed. So we went back and we looked at Memorial Field. The 1970s complex did not anticipate the sports of today. I mean, if you look at the two football fields, they were built for football. They were not built for a soccer field or lacrosse field. We can't get a regulation soccer or a regulation lacrosse there. There's no field hockey. And then the other area is when the track's being used, the grass field in the middle can't be used. That's common back in the day to do that, but it's when we have limited use of grass fields to begin with, that just adds to the issues of trying to get more activities going on. The track needs to be replaced. It is at its end of life. When I say that, we'll be lucky to get 2 years left out of it. We all know the bleachers. The bleachers are from the 1970s. You can see that. The other issues going forward is, should the complex have artificial turf field? There's growing needs of expectations of do sports get on field in, February, March, versus the mid-April right now that we get on the fields. If so, what sports? Where's the location? Parking? We do have some overuse of grass fields, so having an artificial turf field will allow us to rest fields. We'll get into that a little bit later. There's parking challenges and there's some ADA challenges on site with the existing facilities. This is some of the things we heard. Everybody wants the drainage issues solved. They want to improve field lights, replace the drainage, more parking, more accessibility, replace the track. Everybody wanted to keep all the current uses on site, as well as bring varsity soccer to the complex. Right now, varsity soccer is played at Runlet, at Rollins in the fall. So that is the only varsity sport that's not played at Memorial Field. Folks were interested in having another athletic field that's outside the track for increased use. The student athletes would like locker rooms, updated bathroom facilities. General consensus of improve the walking trails, lighting, keep the cross-country ski trails. We talked a little bit about the artificial turf field. There was no consensus, but there wasn't a meeting just on artificial turf field and the pros and cons to that. So I'll turn it over to Eric. Eric's team was looking at some of the wetlands and some of the site constraints.
Thank you, David. Eric Gerard. I'm a civil engineer with VHB and project manager for the project. We engaged a couple of sub-consultants to work with us, Huntress Sports, Huntress Associates, they're leaders in field designs, as well as SW Cole for the geotechnical analysis as well. So we wanted to get the first look is understanding the site constraints. We did a full existing condition survey, understanding the property bounds, setbacks that we're going to be dealing with, natural resources, so identifying wetlands, which areas we need to stay out of that are wet, and understanding those buffer zones that will pull us into different jurisdictional areas and permitting requirements. Full topography was done to understand where the drainage is going, what may need to be done as this facility gets built out and improvements are looked at. And then the results of the subsurface geotechnical analysis, just to confirm, I think what a lot of the data was showing us was high groundwater, hydric soils, causing those poor drainage conditions on site. So the maps were showing the general constraints, so then we started playing with the pieces with Hunter Sports to look at various options of where we can fit different program pieces. And this was kind of the first step at looking to see where we can place program elements based on solar direction, wind, ideal placement for some of the facilities, expanding the parking field, and really kind of trying to redefine that new entry point for the facility. So this is one of the earlier options that looked at rotating the track facility where those grandstands wanted to be, and then seeing that it's really starting to impact the other programs. And one of the goals was to not lose other fields to keep the same level of play out there. So next. So really this just shows as we start reorienting other pieces how it can maybe better fit This is just showing, looking at bleachers on the other side, how the view sheds across the facility will start looking for spectators as well. And this is where we really start looking at adding in the new field components and where's the right spot for the larger sports play fields, and then shifting those. And you can see as we start moving the pieces, it's really starting to impact the other facilities as well. Keep going. And then we really want to start looking at phasing and understanding, this is a large project, and how could the project start being phased with really limiting the other play out there as well. So being able to install a new track facility, a larger facility with more lanes, in an infield that can accommodate more sports, and then additionally a larger sports center field that could be more playable for the other sports like lacrosse, field hockey, and soccer. We also took a look at some parking, knowing that there are parking challenges out there. We have limited parking on site currently today. It's about 128 space, 124 with about 4 to 8 bus spaces in that red. And then parking along the roadway, all the parallel parking, it gets very congested, not very safe. And then looking at the state property for the overflow additionally. So understanding that parking is limited as we started moving into options on site, we wanted to see what we could do to provide additional parking. So as we start looking at the overall new master plan, as some of the pieces start really coming together, the expanded parking field, we looked at realigning the entrance and the exit to better align with the intersection across the street. It's a safer, we get to close off one of the interior entrances, provides a better entry point for buses, an arrival point, and expands parking by about 55 or so spaces in that general area. Excuse me, in that area. This also provides better accessibility, ADA access at the front entry, to allow those visitors to adequately access the site. Able to leave a large green space at that ring area on the road. That was an important piece coming out of the community as well, to have a little grass area to kind of sit on, watch fireworks. To the right of that, you can also see an overflow parking. We got about an additional 100 spaces, and that would be on a grass, a turf, to accommodate those high load needs. The major field components, you see the track with the infield, if that be artificial turf or natural turf. It's shown as artificial right now. And then the larger sports complex in the middle. Right size in the softball field, right now it's a little large, so that allows us to reduce that size to get up regulation, which fits in the middle field. And then trimming up again on the baseball field, keeping that same orientation. It seems to work well. There were no major complaints except for some of those pine trees and the drainage, and pulling in the corners of the outfield. It is a very large field going down the sidelines. This also provides an opportunity to move the tennis courts, provide additional lighting and amenities for that facility with the basketball courts, and tuck that in the corner. And that also will provide some opportunities in the future for drainage improvements as well. I guess, yeah, it also, we're looking at adding for the grandstand, the press box, lighting, in all the new courts. So all those pieces would be adequately addressed. And then looking at the phasing, the development program for phase 1 would be primarily the parking lot improvements, getting that new entry, the new track and field and the infield there, the grandstand, the press box, sports lighting, the overflow parking, and then we'd be looking at some limited drainage improvements under this scenario.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? Just where you've got the reinforced overflow parking, I'm just curious how you get to that.
There is a little ring road on the bottom of that bend there.
It's in white. You can barely see it.
That's going to be the new, there's a road to get out to the main road.
Yep. Thank you.
So we'd hop, essentially kind of hop a curb right there, dude.
We'll have a gate. Hop the curb.
Yeah, so then looking at the phase one, the drainage improvements, so this would be showing the overall drainage improvements that would be accommodated to really fix the problem out there. Those lower fields really need to come up 2 to 3 feet to allow better drainage to get it out. There are the wetlands that we are tying into that are existing. That current drainage system is essentially discharging underwater out there to the final outlet. Additionally, that large blue line that you see on the very bottom of the screen, that's a failing pipe culvert on the state property, and that is impeding flow during those heavy rain events that David mentioned. You know, when we're getting those more intense storms, the flow is not getting through that pipe because it's essentially crushed. So that's causing those higher storms to actually flood back into the facility, and you're seeing those wet field conditions. So this is showing the conceptual drainage of how we would look to limit the work, but also be allowed to get out, add some surface features, some small ponds, and then tying back into the existing infrastructure. And these are just some of the aerial bird's eye views of showing the improvements. This would essentially be phase one. You can see the updates to the parking facility, the track and field, the new grandstands, and then keeping the existing tennis courts. So that just shows how it ties into the existing site today. And then you also see the clubhouse, which could be like a phase 1B or a phase 2. And then, yep, this is just showing that updated master plan. Here, Doc, you can skip that one.
So these are the recommended next steps. Obviously, we've had a couple community meetings. We've presented to the Concord School District, presenting to you guys to look at, hey, do we approve the master plan concepts? The next phase, if that happens, is the final design and permitting. Final design and permitting and traffic study would have to happen to make sure, obviously the design is designed the right way, and we can get all the state permits, and the traffic study supports what we want to try to do in the facility. The next slide will show you some phasing options, but phase one looks at that, improve the parking and traffic circulation, do the new track, the field inside, new bleachers, field lighting, and some drainage improvements. And then phase two could be everything else at a later date, depending on when funding is available. Final design, permitting, and traffic study, that's the $1.5 million. If you want to do the whole thing at once, it's $28.5 million in today's dollars. That number will only increase over the years. You look at the phasing constructions, phase one, the traffic, the drainage, the parking, the track and field, the 6.2. Phase one, it could be 1A, that's that new bathrooms, steam rooms, maintenance facility, and then everything else can be moved around as need be. If you're looking out the 1.5, the final design and permitting and traffic study, once that is funded, it would be about a 12-month process to get that all in place. So best case, even if the funds fall out of the sky tomorrow, we're not doing anything phase one and phase two for a year or two, then that would be best case. So we are looking out on the horizon a little bit, never mind all different phases included. Again, everything is online. We do have a website. A copy of all the public meetings are there. Concord TV videotaped them all the documents, copy of this PowerPoint, all the history and everything is online for everybody to look at. And then happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Kurtz.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. The phase one anticipated construction costs, item 1, track field parking, is that 6.2 million for a turf field?
As of right now, yes.
Okay. And what is can you give us the differential? What it would be if
It's
not
about
a turf
$500,000 to $600,000 for a turf field, in addition to a normal grass field would be.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Yes, thank you. we clearly have to take care of the drainage first. But I'm looking at the massive pipeline of projects that we have and the middle school that we are still, you know, there's so many unknowns with that right now. If we were just going to take care of the drainage, what would that cost? And what would the timeline be?
Probably let Eric jump in a minute. I think the question on the drainage is not, it's probably a little more complex than you think it is. Doing any of the parking improvements, you're going to improve the surface water and stuff coming off of the hill right now. That's about 40 feet above the plane surfaces. When you redo or you make changes to the parking, you're also helping with the drainage coming off that. Also with the drainage, if you did a new track, and even if it's a regular field, you have a lot of underground drainage you would put into that, so that's going to add capacity. So we did not look at just doing drainage, because we also have a parking issue, we also have a track issue, we also have a capacity issue. We would have to probably go back, and if the only thing we want to do is drainage, that's, go to you, the expert.
Yeah, so the drainage, you know, starting down at the final discharge point at that crush pipe, so that's kind of number one. Let's get that fixed, and then it's kind of working upstream from that point. And you really want to start looking at, well, we need to get the surface water off of the fields and be able to drain that. So to really do that appropriately, those fields need to come up. So those natural fields on the bottom, that's all lower than the rest of the facility, need to come up to be able to get that drainage infrastructure in to get the water out. So in order to do that, all those lower fields need to come offline for, at least a year to reestablish turf. After that, grade has to come up the 2 to 3 feet. So that's why we're looking at that more of the phase 2. Under phase 1, we can look at some limited improvements to get the drainage to work, fix that pipe. That's going to help on the flooding and the heavy storm event side of things. And then some minor superficial improvements to help sheet the water off. But it's not going to completely solve the drainage issue for those heavier storm events, just doing those interim measures. The larger track, if we look at phase 1 with the parking lot, we're going to have to bring those all up to code with water quality and water quantity control per New Hampshire DES AOT regulations. And put in the field and will provide the opportunity to provide a lot more storage for that water coming down in that direction to better hold it off. So I think the major drainage improvements for the final fix, it's a lot more work than if we were just looking at the phase 1 with some temporary improvements to get it out there. So if we're looking at the phase 1, which was the numbers was, would be that 6.2 plus you'd look at the phase 2E essentially for the drainage at the bottom for the 2.2. Because that included bringing up those bottom fields and putting in those culverts to get out.
Councilor Foot.
Thank you. Appreciate your effort, and as someone that grew up in this city, I think I can think of a few projects that are more important than having an attractive venue for our residents, students, and visitors. One of the public hearings earlier this year at the high school, there was talk about trying to negotiate with the state to obtain some adjacent land. Where did that go?
Yeah, they were talking about the cornfields to the west of the property. We haven't had any conversations on buying properties or negotiating. That would first come to you guys to figure if that's something that would be an interest or not. But that was mentioned.
So, mention about turf versus grass fields. So, in your analysis, I'm reasonably sure that turf fields, grass fields, there's a big difference in yearly use with those. And it's my experience that, you know, a grass field will get you about 1,000 hours of use per year, whereas a turf field it'd be at least 2.5 times that amount. So, how many artificial fields are you proposing on this? Just one?
Right now, we're showing 2.
You are?
Both.
Okay.
Right now, we're showing both of the both the one inside the track and the multipurpose field as turf. That would be the most expensive options, and then if you make one grass versus one turf, then I think that's part of the continued conversation. I think we haven't talked about it enough, and that's probably on me, is there is that magic number of overuse of fields. We try to have that 600 hours of scheduled play on our fields, understanding that all the parks are open, so there's additional, and anytime you get closer to that 800-900 hours, you're losing the grass. We have several fields that are, we're doing best practices, we're aerating, we're isolating, but we're not resting fields, and they're getting used almost to the point of they need to be rest, and an artificial turf field would allow us to do that. If it's here or some other place in the city, I think, or at least a +1 grass field would help us to rotate things around.
Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple of questions, if that's
Surely,
okay.
go right ahead.
And I apologize if I throw all this at you. I really support the project, which you know from our conversations that we've had on the joint school district and city council meetings over the past several years in discussion about Memorial Field. For clarification for the public, the Concord School District is the primary user of these fields and the facilities here, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we've asked for the school district to help us find funding sources because they have more opportunity available to them to help with a larger project like this. We don't know if that's going to come through. We don't know. That's still kind of questionable. Are there other potential grant sources that you've identified for recreational facilities that this project specifically would be eligible for, that are basically federal grants or land and conservation grants that other recreational facilities would not qualify for?
Yes, I mean, we're very good at applying for and getting land and water conservation funds. We have a report in your packet today for a public hearing next month. That's $500,000. We're really good about getting those. This would be a very competitive land and water conservation project because it has been supported by land and water conservation in the past. However, that is a maximum of $500,000 right now.
Yeah.
There is talk about maybe increasing it, but even if phase one at $6.2 million, $500,000 helps, but it's not getting over the hump, so to speak. I do believe, based on past, I'll pick on the Merrimack Lodge at White Park, a brand new facility. I think there would be some interest in some naming rights. I don't know what that would be. It's not going to be $6 million worth, but there may be some other funds out there that we could work with to help lower the cost for the residents.
Just looking at budgetary numbers, you have operational expenses for all recreation about 1.2 million. No, I'm sorry, that's income. And then expenses is about 4.2 million. I love Councillor Foote bringing up the additional use of the fields. Do we also anticipate there would be additional revenue on rental of those fields that would be able to offset any potential general obligation funds? Wow, I don't speak well after 9 o'clock.
Well, I think if the conversation is about adding an artificial turf field, I think the going rate of those around the state is $150 to $200 an hour. I think if that's the fee structure that we want to entertain, I think then there is. The current fee structure we have for our grass fields at $27 an hour is not going to really make a difference. But I think if it's an artificial turf field and we really want to make it a destination, and a lot of the private leagues will pay for it, a lot of the schools will pay for it, I think it's not going to solve a $6 million shortfall, but it will definitely bring in some additional funds. And frankly, if it's done right, you can plow and maintain those in February when all the other grass fields are not usable, and then you're getting income from a facility that right now we wouldn't get any income until mid-April.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Councilor Horn.
Speaking of the operational costs, do you have any idea the difference between the turf versus grass field for upkeep?
Sorry, it's the life, or just? Turn that one off, I apologize. Take it.
You are on the record as silencing.
Thank you for that. It is, a lot of folks say it costs less for an artificial turf field. That's not necessarily true. You do have to, if it's done right, every 40 hours or so, you do have to move the product around. You probably have a better understanding of foot than I do. You're not doing the mowing, you're not doing the daily maintenance, but there is weekly maintenance you have to do. Right now, we are carrying all the operating costs in our budget for Memorial Field. There would probably be some additional expense for equipment just for artificial turf fields, because you can't use the regular type of equipment that we have on them, but we'll have to go into a little more detail on what that operating expenses would be, but there would be something, but it would not be drastic. We're not going to save money to do an artificial turf field. And also interesting to note, every 10 years or so for an artificial turf field, you do have to replace the surface. So unlike a grass field, we can just seed it and aerate it and like this good and rest it a little bit. You do have to every 10 or 12 years replace it. An additional cost.
Councilor Brown?
Yes. I have a question about timing, and if we were to just do phase 1 and 2E, the drainage, could that be done? And I'm sure, have you spoken with the school district? Will that impede rebuilding at Runlet? Like, can the athletics, will the field use, can we accommodate a rebuild at Runlet and partial renovation of Memorial Field?
Well, I think that's probably one of the multi-million-dollar questions is if you do it at the same time, in the same.
Almost 30 million.
Literally.
Just
If you do, you not want to have the fields at Runlet and Memorial Field offline at the same 4-year window. Otherwise, sports, and they would have to travel long distances to play sports. We don't have the capacity to lose Runlet's 11 acres, half of Memorial Field's 11 acres, a third of it. That's a lot of fields to take off at the same time. So you would have to have a well thought out, planned 5 or 6 year window of whatever you wanted to do. Just
Councilor Beckler.
But I thank you for this, but I hear you saying the track's not going to it's not going to last more than 2 years, right?
It will not.
Thank you.
And we have been, sorry, real quick, we have been talking with.
You're anticipating my question.
We have been talking with Merrimack Valley School District about the potential use of their new track. They just installed a new track at about $400,000 this past summer. So in the event we get to that point, right now they're being very good neighbors about working with the willingness to work with us to create a plan B if need be.
Councilor Fennessy.
This sort of follows up on the question that I was going to ask you that you answered, but is it fair to say that if nothing is done at Memorial Field in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to have to find some alternative arrangements for at least track, perhaps some other things?
That would be correct. I think the biggest issue is probably the track. I think the grass, for the most part, if it doesn't give us 5 or 6 inches of rain, I think the grass surfaces we can handle. We have a very good aggressive, aeration and seeding plan, and we close the fields a lot when it's not playable. Some towns don't do that, and their fields are trash. But the track is probably the one item that it will need some more TLC that staff can, above what staff can provide.
Councilor Schultz.
If you're wondering why I'm using my cell phone during the council meeting, I'm hearing from a constituent. Former councilor Candace Bouchard suggests, would it make sense to move the Terrell Park field up, I assume she means on the timeline, a field the school and public could use while waiting for Memorial Field to be rebuilt? And she also points out that Ward 8 does not have a park.
I think that's up for the city council to consider. I'll probably go back, I think we did that probably 2011 or 12. That is fully designed and permitted. Someone wants to give us money tomorrow, we can have the construction start over the summer, over the winter, late winter. During that time frame when we're looking at Terrell Park, we did anticipate on conversations, hey, if we build a new facility now, will that give us the flexibility to take something offline in the future and move things around? So that was discussed back then. But it is also a multi-million-dollar project. It's in the CIP. It's pretty well budgeted out, but it's still the good thing is already designed and permitted, but it's still a lot of money to do the work. So,
Councilor Curtis.
Thank you. Follow up to the question about Terrell Park, just for the public and folks who may, around the table, who may not have been here for those conversations. That proposed project is a turf field, and is there a track proposed?
nope, Terrell Park was just, at the time, obviously it would be a new park, it had a playground, it had the first section of the Merrimack River Greenway Trail, it had a artificial turf field with lights and then parking. And we did that design and permitting. We also anticipated and we showed the second right-hand turn lane coming off of Old Turnpike, going across the river, anticipating that at some point in time we'd need that. And lo and behold, we're talking about that again. So it was just a playing field and a playground, and then the parking lot.
Follow up. The dimensions of the field would accommodate, or are consistent with what we're looking at here, that would accommodate all regulation sports?
It would be all sports.
Thank you.
Councilor Brad.
Yes, have you looked at, I know there's privately owned field space available on Clinton Street, someone who offered, actually offered the school district to use it, but is that something that the city could entertain?
We have not looked at buying new
Or leasing.
land or leasing. I think the area in question we've talked about, I think, is actually an active farm right now. It's farmed, but we have not had any of those conversations regarding building something new.
Follow up.
Yes, actually, there's not farmland, it's
Okay.
just open field that when the school district was debating locating, they had said, yes, the school district could use that, and I thought, okay, well, if we're redoing Memorial Field, that could be an alternate site. I can share with you that address later.
Councilor Crespick.
Thank you, Your Honor. So over the past decade or so, well, first I want to say congratulations to the city. We have another 50-year project that has lasted, that now we have on our plate, that we need to do something different, because there is kudos for the amount of maintenance and time that have extended the life of these facilities. Over the past decade, we've had multiple recreational projects that have come before us, and we've presented one option to the community and had to scale back and present option B, C, and D. Are we getting that here, or are we only going to look at A?
I think the funding that we asked for, if we want to keep going back, we'd probably just need to work with VHB to get another cost estimate. I think if you look at the community center, we started off asking 3. I think we ended up having 17 different business plans and different options. I think if it's if you're looking for more, we just need to get that guidance of what that is, and then we can figure out what that is.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Spell.
So I look at this as just simply a starting point for have discussions with the Concord School District and talk about what they envision and then what the city envisions, because the city council looks at it from the perspective of the community needs. The school district's going to look at it just from the school needs. And of course, we have other users who are involved there. So so I think what has to happen next is, based on all the geotechnical work has been done, you can't really do the drainage without doing the fields. That's really the conclusion came out. If you simply fix the drainage, you wouldn't be able to use the fields, the lower fields at all. So because you'd have to raise the fields, so you're gonna have to fix the fields. So I think the point that you're really at is, here's the basic information. you have to decide, and the school district has to decide, Concord School District has to decide what needs you're going to try to meet. This is trying to meet everybody's needs. You saw there's a 2,000 space, person grandstand, there's all kinds of additional parking, there's something that everybody wants there. You have to decide essentially what you want. The school district has to decide what it wants, come to a meeting of the minds, hopefully. That has not happened, and there's no saying that that will happen. And then decide if you can come to a conclusion about what needs to be built, then how it gets built and who pays for it. So this has got a very long discussion point. You're at the very beginning stages of this. And recognizing the fact that the track will not last until you come to the conclusion of what you want to do, how you're going to pay for it, and start designing it. So there has to be a plan, and we don't have a track team. The school district has a track team. So the school district needs to work with the school district, not pointing to you, but you're to the other school district, and how about working together and coming up with a plan of actually, and the track at Merrimack Valley School District is half on city property. So we work together very well with the Merrimack Valley School. They're fantastic people. That can all be worked out. But really, all the decision you need to make tonight is, hey, do you want to continue to work on this, and do you want to work with the Concord School District to see if you can come to some sort of understanding about what needs to be built and how it's going to get paid for. You don't need to come up with what the plan is tonight about what to build or anything like that.
Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just one point I'd like to make. I think this, as you say, Mr. Manager, at this juncture, it's really the beginning stages of it. But I think it's really important at this beginning stage to reach a memorandum of understanding with the school district, how much they're willing to contribute. They use it 75% of the time. Maybe 75% of the cost is a little aggressive, but I would hope for at least a 50% commitment. And if we don't receive that, or at least an understanding of that at this point, I don't see any need to go forward with this type of model. I think we need to do something up there, but whether the school district uses that property or not, really in my mind is dependent on their willingness to help fund it, because I don't think it should fall on our plate entirely.
Councilor Horn.
Just out of curiosity for me, have the city and Concord School District worked together on a project of this magnitude ever?
Then I can.
Other than property acquisitions that we've obtained.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the manager's comments, and Mr. Gill, thank you very much also for laying this out. I think that this is a very logical approach, it seems to me, what you've taken here, and the way that you've laid out the phasing on this. Based on the manager's comments, it just triggered in my mind, ask you a simple question. One way or the other, even if we decided to move forward on this project, does it seem likely that the school district would probably likely have to find an additional option for the track? Because as your estimate is, in 2 years, it's probably not going to be usable anymore. Does that seem correct to you, or is there a way that you would envision that the track could somehow continue to have its life extended for another couple of years beyond the 2 years you mentioned?
I think that if no money is put into the track, I think you are going to lose the ability to use the track safely. I think it goes back to, do you do $100,000 or $200,000 repair to track that you may dig up 4 years after that? That's the reality of where you may want to be. I don't want to waste money that we know we're going to do something, but you could probably create something like that hopefully it's not a $400,000 track like Merrimack Valley just did, but you could probably come up with something understanding if you do a larger project that those investments may go away, but it gets you a couple of years worth of work potentially.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Yes. So I have this, I don't know when this came out, the Memorial Field user groups, from 2022. And Bishop Brady, Trinity Christian, there are other groups that use Memorial Field. Have we connected with them to contribute towards this fund,
Contribute as in
as in financially?
rent the facility right now, so I think that would be a conversation if
Mr. City Manager.
So, we wouldn't have conversations until we knew what you wanted to build. Then we would go and talk to people, whether it's, as David mentioned, naming rights or contributions or grants, but we need to know what is going to be built first. I'll give you a quick little history, is that we've in the past done copious studies on what to charge folks for using fields and using facilities or whatnot, and the city council looked at those and said, that's all great, that's, national standards, and then folks will come to you, the users come to you and say, but I don't want to pay $200 an hour, I used to pay in 27, how about 25 this time? And the city council said yes. So don't, unless the community's changing, don't count on a whole lot of dollars coming from the users. But there are grant opportunities, there are partnerships we can do, there are other opportunities to raise dollars here, but you're not going to be, it's very much like, because you want the folks to be in the community to be able to use it, and you don't want to charge them out and only allow the people with a lot of money to be able to use the facility. But we'll have all those conversations. But as a practice, we do not go and talk to people about these partnerships or discussions or dollars without your permission, without coming to you first and getting direction so that everybody's hearing the same thing.
Hello?
Mr. Mayor, I thought that we were going to have a presentation by the school district. Have we scheduled to have them come and present? I think that we really need to stagger or plan our projects with the massive middle school project. Is that on the horizon? Do we have a date?
We don't have a date at this point, do we?
No, we don't. They, when my last discussions with the superintendent, they talked about it. They would like to do that after the beginning of the year, because of course they have a new school board. So whoever you talk to now, between now and the end of December 31st, is not going to be the same people who will be making the decisions, particularly regarding the budget items. Be a whole different, not a whole different group, but a different group. And as you know, all it takes is one or two people to change how things go.
They are going before the planning board in December, is that correct?
Have they submitted?
No, wait, I'm sorry.
Matt, are you aware if they, do you mind if I ask?
No, go ahead.
Are you aware if school district has submitted a plan yet to the planning board for review?
They have not.
Thank you.
All right.
Go back to work. Okay. No. So I would say no. Right, as of right now, no.
That's fantastic.
Not really a question, more of a comment. I guess from my perspective, given where things are potentially going with respect to the middle school project, it seems to me that if we can get the school board on board with moving forward with Memorial Field, we could potentially do like a phase one, phase whatever we want to call it, A, B, whatever, before they even get to whatever they're going to do with the middle school at some point. So I guess from my perspective, I sort of echo what Councilor Foote says. If we can figure out what we want to do and get them on board, I think we should be trying to do that as quickly as we can, perhaps get that project going sooner rather than later, because someone, I've got children who have used that track. I know the track very well. It's in very bad shape. I've used the Little League field in the back. I can tell you that although it wasn't within the red line, I can assure you that the entire right-hand side of that field is underwater if it rains more than an inch. I know Councilor Grady Sexton has seen that field underwater. So there's a lot of things going on there, and people have been complaining about this for a number of years at this point. I think that, at least from my perspective, and everybody can have different perspectives, to me this is a priority project, and I think we should be trying to expedite it as much as possible, and if we can get the school board to join us so that, whether it's 50-50 or whatnot, that would be ideal. I would prefer that we not be the impediment to this moving forward.
Councilor Schlosser.
So what is needed tonight? So this is presented to us for information, and we've asked questions. What's needed tonight, and what are the next anticipated next steps here?
What we need to do tonight is accept this report,
Accept the
and,
report.
and there will be, continuing conversations with the school district. The joint city council, school districts committees will be meeting in January. This will undoubtedly be one of the topics of conversation. And that's how we move forward on this. Councilor Foote?
So I appreciate the comments, Councilor Fennessy. So my original question to Mr. Gill was, have we pursued the state land? And this is exactly why. It was all for me. I was jumping ahead, phasing. And if we were to come to some agreement with the state to acquire that land, we could actually build one of the artificial fields in that area and allow the existing park to remain, which would benefit the school in the city and the visitors. That's the big emphasis is on that track and that field. So that could be repositioned, and I know a guy that could design that down in the wetland. I'm very confident. So I really believe that we shouldn't discount trying to acquire that land from the state, and I think the phasing would be so much easier for all of us.
Do I have a motion to accept the report?
So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Brown?
Yes, can we also do what Councilor Foote suggested with directing Mr. Gill to look at that, engaging with the state on that property, or would it be through the city manager?
I think the city manager would have to direct Mr. Gill.
Okay,
I would vote for the city manager.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. This moves us to unfinished business. I'll entertain a motion from Councilor Kurtz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we take item 39 under unfinished business off the table.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying, I'm sorry.
What is 39?
Item 39 is the homestead operation regulations. All right.
And point of process. So what does that mean?
Hang on, it means that what that means
Hold
is-
it, buddy.
What you did at a previous meeting is you put it on the table to send it to the committee to look at. The committee has reviewed that, come back with a supplemental report, which you provided.
Right, which is in the agenda.
Which is in the agenda.
Right.
And now you need to make a decision about whether or not to approve the regulations based on that recommendation from that committee, which the recommendation from that committee is to approve the report.
So, but the motion, may I?
Yes, you
please
may.
ask? So the motion to take it off the table is to put it on our agenda.
So you can discuss.
Is that right?
That is
Correct.
correct.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
that was the term to use, but it is
Okay.
confusing. So
Thank you.
for
I just-
clarifying.
Right, exactly.
Thank
All
you.
right. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 39.
It was originally an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Code, Chapter 13, Public Health, Sanitary Food Code. It was referred back to the ad hoc committee to review outdoor dining and food trucks, and there is a supplemental report that staff presented in front of you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager?
I have nothing to add. I think the committee has come to a recommendation on that, which is absolutely viable, and I think you should approve the ordinance.
Thank you. I would just add that this is a non-substantial change. We changed, the committee changed a word, I think, to clarify.
To clarify.
Correct. Council Brown?
Yes, I have a question. I'm trying to see what page number it is, because there aren't page numbers. Okay, so it is page number 4, under Section 8 Homestead Standards, F. It says coved base at the junction of the floor and wall shall not be required. Is that supposed to be covered?
Is it covered?
It says coved.
Okay.
So I just, I wasn't sure, maybe coved is a specific.
No, that could be.
Okay, so then I would suggest that we correct that
I think we can
word
change that.
to covered.
Good eye.
Council McNamara? I'm sorry, was your hand up?
I was just going to say that the questions that were brought up at our city council meeting were answered by staff and they cleared up, and that's why this was so recommended to just come back to you and have you approve.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I would just like to add that the chair of that committee ran the most efficient committee meeting I've attended in quite some time. So thank you.
No redundancy, we just.
The chair recognizes Mr. Walsh.
Sorry to approach. I think cove base is basically a piece of trim that meets where a wall meets a floor. And I think it's the proper term. I think we're just specifying that it's not required at that particular location in a home. You're welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Soffit and efficient.
What's the reason?
He's good at anything, isn't he?
He's terrific. Yeah. Keep him on.
It's all right.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, I'm sorry, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Move to approve, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The motion passes. I think I have a defective agenda because it doesn't have.
Comments,
I know.
requests,
Oh, here it is. Thank you. Comments, requests. It was hidden. Any comments by the City Council? Council Brown.
So next week, there are some awesome opportunities to connect and converse with fellow community members. On Tuesday, November 19th, 2 of them are chamber events. There's a workplace inclusivity workshop from 2:30 to 4. You can register for it at the chamber website. Also, Wednesday, November 20th, from 8 to 4 is the second annual, incredibly successful, wonderful Moving Together Conversations, Immigrants in New Hampshire's Workforce, embracing, integrating, celebrating the vital partnership between immigrant workers and the labor market. And I have to say, last year, it wasn't just conversations, it was solutions. It was really a fantastic workshop, and I highly recommend it. And finally, and that is 8 to 4 at the Grapponi Conference Center. You can also sign up through the Concord Chamber. And then on Saturday, November 23rd, is the Holiday Parade from 9:30 to 12:30, another opportunity to connect with fellow community members.
Councilor Mack.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say a huge thank you to our city clerk's office and to our general services staff and to all the volunteers who work at the polling places. I think it was fantastic that we had such an influx, a huge influx in number of voters in every single ward this year, and the number of voters who came to register. You know, at Ward 4, we had at least 28 constantly out the door, and I know it happened every other ward, but our poll workers were just on top of it. You know, Ward 4 had 2 machines break down. I think it took them 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to get that, and the public didn't feel that. It was smooth, and all the voters were just, at least what we witnessed in Ward 4, patient and kind. There was no ill will or frustration, and I just appreciated the public was so kind. But I think part of that is to do with our city staff and our city clerk's office, who was in there all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Thank you, and thank you to all.
If I may just say thank you for that. I don't think there's a department in the city that doesn't help, so it's truly our ward officials, the city clerk's office staff, kudos to them, and then every department in the city really helps out. Citywide effort went really well. Very grateful. Yeah.
Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple of items, if I may. I just want to start with a thank you to Beth Fenstermacher and Matt Walsh and others in city staff who have been working on the plans for the Pennacook Canal Street Riverfront Park. This, for folks who don't know, this has been in the plans for literally decades to have a park at this location. It's been a part of the community interest and outreach for many, many years to the city to have this done. And although the official opening is going to be in the spring, my understanding is that by December, the construction fencing that's around the perimeter of the park will be taken down. And folks can actually go into the park and access the walkways and take a look around and see what you've got there, which I think you'll be really pleased with what you find. So please feel free to visit the park when the barriers are down. And I know this week there's going to be some park walkway paving that'll be completed, some other things. There are still some things that are going to happen with signage and so forth that are going to happen, the bus shelter, bike racks that are going to happen next spring. And then next spring we can look forward to an official grand opening. But in the meantime, folks, get out there and enjoy your new park. Also on parks, I just want to say the same design team that has worked on the Canal Street Park is also going to be, they're also hired to work on the Pennacook Riverside Park on Tanner Street. This is our existing park. And city staff, I think, had a kickoff meeting with the designers. You can expect to see some folks out there from the design team getting an assessment of the conditions of the park as it exists now. And then I understand that there will be a community input meeting planned in the coming months so that we can get folks to weigh in on what they'd like to see happen with that park as well. So that'll be a great process. So thank you to staff for all that. If I may, Your Honor, just continue. Two other quick things. The Pennacook Village Association's annual meeting is going to be held on Monday, November 18th at 6:30 p.m. at the Pennacook Elementary School cafeteria. The guest speakers are going to be New Hampshire Senator-elect Tara Reardon and Representative-elect Jim Snodgrass. So they're going to be there available to speak about Pennacook, about the community, about the state issues, and chance for folks in the community to meet them and also ask questions. Also, the Pennacook Village Association will be hosting the 19th annual, I'm getting old, 19th annual Pennacook Tree Lighting Ceremony on Wednesday, December 4th at Boudreaux Square on Village Street. And so please assemble around 5:30 or 5:45 to hear the annual Pennacook Elementary School Chorus sing, and also the Blanchard Family Singers. And if we've all been good, we'll know because you can watch Santa arrive courtesy of the Concord Fire Department truck. So hope to see you all there.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. I just wanted to give a shout out to our good friends Alex and Lindsay at Revelstoke Coffee for their final Cars and Coffee on Capitol event this past Saturday. I don't know if folks were able to make it out there, but it is just such a great event, and it really draws so many people from, all over New England to our downtown. I'm really excited to see what they have ready for us in 2025, and just thank them for all the work they do to better our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Floyd.
I just want to echo what everyone said about the city clerk and our team. For voting for me couldn't have been any more seamless. I walked in, walked up, I was out of there in 2 to 3 minutes. There are other communities in the state that folks were waiting up to 43 minutes and sometimes 2 hours if they hadn't pre-registered. So again, great job. And then on another note, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but Concord's very own Dr. Richard Rosado became the 165th president of the American Dental Association. So what a contribution he's made to this community. His wife's also a dentist. Great people, and we should be very proud of him being a Concord resident and serving us so well. So thank you, Dr. Rosado, and his wife, Laura Rosado. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Okay. I hate to be redundant, but I did also want to add my thanks to the city clerk and her staff and all the city employees who made election day. Excuse me. Made election day last week work seamlessly. I visited every ward, and uniformly everything was working smoothly, despite some problems with mechanical problems at a couple of the wards. I think this community has a lot to be proud of, both in terms of the voter turnout that we had and the fact that the whole process ran so smoothly. So I add my thanks, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments?
I have a very brief presentation by Directors F and G, and so just keep it moving. And they have some really good news to provide.
We always like good news.
At the end of the meeting, so that'll be it. I don't have anything else after.
Open up your checkbooks now.
Memorial Field is now funded? No.
So exciting news, Pennacook. I know this has been a long time coming, the project there in Pennacook, which will be the Pennacook Library and Activity Center there coming soon. So next Monday, November 18th will be the last day of the old Pennacook. We'll go live with this tomorrow. Then we'll have about 2 weeks for our transition that's already started behind the scenes. A lot of different people involved with that. And then December 5th, we'll have a kind of grand opening. First day, the library will be open there at 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock on Thursday, December 5th. And as part of this project, we're doing kind of a Goodbye to Pennacook project, which is a shared history project. We're going to call it I Remember at Pennacook. I have one of my staff members, her name is Sage S. Anthony at concordnh.gov. We'll have all this PR out tomorrow. Anyone that has experiences, pictures, memories from the old Pennacook Library, we're going to put together and kind of do a living history documentation. We'll put on the website. We'll do a scrapbook and have just create a new web page for all the different experiences. Over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, when we started looking at the Pennacook Library project, before we got Parks and Rec involved, people have been telling us stories about what it meant to them, how long they used to go there, what their favorite parts of the library were, programs, experiences there. So we kind of want to commemorate that and captivate that long term with the project. And then after we open December 5th, soon after certainly Parks and Rec and the library will be sharing the space there at our new location.
So you'll all get a little invite tomorrow for December 5th at 1 o'clock. It's a small building, but it's very important. You guys have had a long vision to get this happen, so
This is a
we're
thank
almost
you
there.
because the council is the one who's really making this happen. So we want to make sure that you got in there and got a good look at it. And so
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
See, you made your stuff.